Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Engine Room Podcast, brought to you as ever by tokenmetrics.com. We got this podcast. It's usually me, Bill, and Jacob here. We've been bringing in a bunch of external folks. We've got a pretty interesting, multifaceted external guest today. I'm pleased to say hello to Mr. Adam Hollander. Adam, thanks for joining us on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
So much to unpack when we just like look at your raw job titles and experience, because you come to the crypto world by way of Microsoft. Is that right? You were formerly head of gamification at Microsoft, and now you are running, you're co-founder of two different NFT projects. Did you go immediately from Microsoft to crypto, or how did that bridge get built there for you?
Sure. So I founded a software company in 2011 called Fantasy Sales Team, and it was a gamification company. Although at the time that I founded it, that term really didn't exist. What the company did was we built software that allowed employees of companies to earn points for everything that they were metriced on. And so, a salesperson maybe would earn points for every phone call they make, or every email they send, or every deal that they close. And the twist to it was, in addition to putting leaderboards up and creating competition, we allowed everyone else in the company to draft fantasy teams of the players. And so that meant that everyone from, your CEO to the receptionist could become invested in the success of the folks that were participating out on the field. And it created an environment of pressure inside of an organization. You can imagine, you walk by your CEO in the hallway and he says, "What the heck? You only made 16 phone calls this morning. You're dragging my team down." And so Microsoft acquired that company in 2015. It was integrated into their Dynamics ecosystem and is now called Microsoft Gamification, where if you're using that CRM platform, you can create games and competitions and contests to motivate and really drive performance with the folks that are using the CRM. And when I joined Microsoft, it was really to help embed and integrate what I had built with my company into a much broader ecosystem. I got to learn what it was like to build and scale and sell software at least for me, what were completely unprecedented levels of scale. And so I learned a lot. I met a lot of amazing people through that experience. I got to do things that I never really dreamed of doing. One of the things I learned about myself, though, is that I am a fast-paced, scrappy entrepreneur, and working in a company the size of Microsoft was a little debilitating for me, if I'm being honest. Look, Microsoft's an amazing company. They treat their employees and their executives extremely well. They build amazing things, but everything moves slower when you're in an organization of that size, and I just simply wasn't used to it. And so I decided after 2 years that I would kind of come back to my roots. I moved my family back to Austin, Texas. Love Austin to pieces, never wanted to leave in the first place. At that point, I joined as chief operating officer of a medical education company. I was their fourth employee, worked there for 4.5 years, building a platform that really changed the face of the way that medical students consume information and pass their boards and become doctors. And that platform today is used by hundreds of thousands of medical learners every single month. It has over 100 employees, just went through a $25 million fundraise. But I left that opportunity about 6, 7 months ago, really because of Web3 and crypto and just my infatuation with NFTs and the recognition of what NFTs really mean for our world moving forward as the building blocks, not just for a metaverse, but as infallible proof of ownership of digital assets and the implications that has on a wide variety of markets. And so we'll talk all about that, of course, but I really have shifted almost all of my professional energy simultaneously with all of my personal interests and personal energy into the world of NFTs. And of course, now I'm running several projects as co-founder myself, and I invest in these projects and otherwise, and I'm sure we'll talk a lot about that.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. So you're kind of getting you're perfectly teeing up my next question, which is your crypto origin story in general. When did you first hear the word Bitcoin? And then what was going on? Like how are you rubbing up against NFT topics to the point that you actually bought one? And then from there we can talk about I see your Bored Ape hoodie, man. Come on, we got to talk about it. We got to talk about
Yeah, let's talk about it.
when did you buy your first crypto, and how did you get into NFTs on the level that you were into Bored Apes?
Yeah, so I've been into crypto for a while now. I bought Bitcoin relatively early. I bought Ethereum relatively early. I bought them, if I'm being candid as speculative investments. I don't think at the time, whether it was 6 years ago or longer, that I was buying them, that I, necessarily was a true believer that, they were going to take over the world in terms of, the way that we transact. But I bought them kind of like stocks or assets. I did mint a crypto kitty over 4 years ago. And so I technically can say that my first NFT was very early. But I can say very honestly that when I minted my crypto kitty and then breeded it, it was a fun little game pastime for me. I did not appreciate what it was or what it represented or the impact of NFTs moving forward. And then there was a several year gap where I didn't do anything with NFTs in between because, like I said, I didn't really appreciate what it was. What happened was that mid last year, I was introduced to this concept of virtual real estate. And I actually was introduced to Decentraland. And I bought a plot of land and I did it kind of for fun, more speculatively than anything else. But I was like, this would be kind of cool to own a plot of land in the metaverse. Let's do this. And so I bought one. And then I had buyer's remorse the next day because I saw another plot of land in a different location. I was like, oh, that would have been a better buy for me. And so then I bought that plot of land, but then I put the other one up for sale. And I figured, oh, I'll sell that one eventually and make the money back. And within a matter of hours, it sold for a $4,000 profit. And I thought to myself, I just made $4,000 almost by mistake. I wonder if I could do that again. And so then I took the piece of land that I had already bought that I was even planning to keep, and I just threw it up for sale for a little more than I paid for it. And it sold that evening for another couple $1,000s. And I kind of started looking in the mirror like, I don't know why this is happening or why it's working, but it's working. So maybe I should keep doing this. And that was the moment where I started doing real research. That was the moment where I started reading up on NFTs and understanding why are people buying these the way that they're buying them and paying as much as they're paying. And, all roads seemed to lead to Bored Ape Yacht Club at that point. People kept talking about it. And so then I started looking into Bored Apes and understanding generative NFT projects and rarity and what that represented. And, the rabbit hole is very, very deep. I mean, you could spend months trying to figure out, all the reasons why people are getting involved into these communities or otherwise. But I started really appreciating it. It wasn't just about the fun of flipping or the fact that I could make money with it. It was this sort of mind-blowing moment where I recognized, okay, so an NFT is infallible proof of ownership of a digital asset. And wow, what does that actually mean? Does that mean that I could be, buying tickets as NFTs? Does that mean that all of these games that I've played, World of Warcraft or otherwise, technically to some extent were like early iterations of NFTs, just not necessarily on an open blockchain? Does that mean that eventually maybe the deed to your house could be an NFT or your medical records or all these other things? And I was just astounded by it. And because of my professional background and, talking to people, I started reaching out to all these notable people that were starting projects, people that were writing articles. And, what folks don't realize is that these people are a lot more accessible than you might think. You reach out to a lot of these folks and they're willing to jump on the phone and they love talking about it. They'll grab a beer to talk about it. And I spent weeks, just hours a day, talking to anybody that would want to talk to me about whatever it is that they were working on, what they were building, why they were passionate about it. And I started expanding this knowledge base that I had about what NFTs were and why I believe in them now to such an extent. And so, Bored Ape Yacht Club for me, when I really started learning about it early, it became a realization for me that this was one of these projects that it was more about the membership than it was about the asset. And that people were paying all this money for these NFTs, but they weren't doing it because it was a picture of a cartoon monkey that they liked, or even that it was rare. It was that it represented this membership into an exclusive community that had value that would be very hard to quantify in other ways. And, I talk about it all the way up through today. I just tweeted about this just a few days ago that, the opportunities that have come to me because of my Bored Ape PFP are countless. I have had people reach out to me consistently to, advise on projects, or to, get involved early in projects, or they want to give me whitelist to a project just because I happen to own the ape. And by the way, that's not really a good reason to do those things. There are plenty of people that have a lot of money that can buy a Bored Ape, and it doesn't mean that they're qualified to give advice
Yeah.
or qualified to do anything. But I will say that in my case, that I'm uniquely in a position to hopefully provide value, it's opened up a lot of doors for me. It also means that when I reach out to other people, that they pay attention. When I reach out to people, far before I was considered an NFT influencer and had 30,000 followers, and, was on podcasts like this one or the news or otherwise, I could reach out to almost anybody. And because of my PFP, they would respond to me. And the value in that is really, really powerful.
Mhm.
I'd like to think that, at a certain point, you're able to transcend that. And I would like to think that today, if I changed my PFP from my ape to anything else, or even a picture of myself in the real world, that I would hold the same credibility that I do, and that I'm able to provide value to my projects and otherwise. But I'm proud of the membership in Bored Ape Yacht Club. I own my Bored Ape, and I think I'll own it forever. I don't have any intentions of ever selling it. It doesn't matter to me what the floor price is of Bored Ape Yacht Club. I'm involved in it because I'm an avid member of the community. I'm a passionate believer in the value of the project and the connections that you're able to make. I think much more akin to getting membership into an exclusive club, or a country club, or whatever you might call it in the real world, than just buying an NFT.
Yeah, yeah. Um, yeah, Adam, thanks for dropping a bunch of wisdom right there. At this point, I kind of want to throw it to Jacob, who is, as mentioned, he's like our local NFT whisperer here. Jacob, check this guy out. He's got all this NFT action going on. I'm surely you've got a question or two for the young man.
Yeah, I mean, as you're talking about Bored Ape and every all the utility that it brings you, I'd like if you could maybe give us a little more of an inside look. Maybe explain if you've been to any IRL events, or who you've spoken to through Bored Ape Yacht Club, or yeah, I just kind of like more of an inside look.
Yeah, so I had somebody reach out to me just yesterday about a project that I had never heard of before. And by the way, I get hundreds of messages every single day. And when I get messages from hundreds of people, I can't read them all. And so when I'm skipping over the large majority of them, when somebody has an 8 PFP, it stands out to me. And I tend to at least read it. I don't respond to all of it, but I read it. I know that there's lots of other people that do that. And so that's one example of utility. Now, arguably you could just, right click, copy, paste an ape, and maybe to some extent get some of that same value, but I personally wouldn't feel right about it. But this person reached out to me about a project that was actually doing something really interesting and really unique that I hadn't seen before in any other project. And so at that point, I started chatting with them a bit about it. And I learned something new that they were doing that I think could have real implications on the future of our space. And so then they connected me with the other co-founders, and we're going to do a call in a couple of days. And I think they reached out to me in part because of my ape. I responded to them in part because of that. There's an event going on at South by Southwest in a couple of days that's exclusive for Bored Ape holders. And I'm going to join that event. And I've already talked to 3 people that I've interacted with on NFT Twitter that happen to also be going to that event. And we're going to meet in person, and there's an opportunity to do that. I'm going to be going to Ape Fest in a couple of months, which is at NYT NFC. And so there's going to be an opportunity for me to meet in person with a lot of these folks that, by the way, the majority of people that own Bored Apes, they're in one of 2 buckets at this point. They're either people that spent a lot of money on their Bored Ape and have a lot of conviction, and for a lot of reasons probably have had some level of success in their life and are doing interesting things. Or they're people that got in really early and have held this entire time, and every single day make a decision that the best way for their several $100,000 to be invested is to hold it in a picture of a cartoon ape instead of sell it, because Bored Apes are very liquid. If you want to throw your Bored Ape up near the floor, you can have that money in 5 minutes if you want to. And so people are making a conscious decision every day that that's a really good way to continue to invest their funds. And they're not doing it in a traditional way compared to most other generative projects. They're not doing that because they really think that they're going to get some very specific utility or airdrop or whatever it is. The people that are really passionate about Bored Ape Yacht Club understand that it's membership and that the connections that you can make as a result of owning that ape and reaching out to others and engaging in the community far exceed the opportunities that you get from investing that money into most other projects. And so that to me is at least the experience that I've had. There's a lot of folks that probably don't take the time to reap those rewards or yield that value from that particular collection. And to an extent, I feel a little sorry for those folks because they're missing the point. But for me, that's the reason that I hold my ape. That's the reason that I don't check the floor prices on it, that I have no intention of selling it, as long as I'm able to continue to leverage it as part of my personal brand and to make connections with other really smart people doing innovative things in a space that I'm spending this much time, effort, energy, money in.
Awesome. Yeah, it seems almost that like a Bored Ape profile picture is sometimes more powerful than the blue check mark on Twitter. It's that's your verification is having a Bored Ape.
I,
Like you
I
said,
think
people.
that I think
Yeah.
that that's correct a lot of the time. Although, I'll go back to something that I said earlier, which is that there are too many people in the NFT space that equate that if somebody owns something expensive, that it means that they are credible. And that's something I think it's very important for folks to hear is just a fallacy. That's just not true. Just because somebody has money doesn't mean that they even earned that money on their own. They might have gotten it through some form of luck. Maybe somebody died in their family and gave them that money. And just because they own something expensive doesn't mean that their opinions are valid. It doesn't mean they're making good investment decisions. It doesn't mean that they're able to build or launch a project and run a company effectively or responsibly. And so I'd like to think that the credibility that I've built in my own persona on Twitter or otherwise, maybe people join and they follow me because they see the ape. But then hopefully they continue to listen to me because of my business experience and because I am running multiple projects and doing it in a credible way that hopefully is driving value for the people that I'm making commitments to. I think it's very sad that there are people in the NFT space that are so new to this market and then they come in with a very small amount of money compared to people that might be able to own a Bored Ape, and then they invested in something because somebody with an ape picture told them to, and then maybe they get rugged or maybe they lose that money, and then they're wondering like, what did I do wrong? And they don't realize that you need to get involved in projects where you do your own research. You need to make your own decisions based on information that's meaningful to you. And you need to understand who are the people that you're listening to, most of whom, by the way, aren't even doxxed. You don't even know who these people are in real life. And, for all you know, you're listening to some 11-year-old that, got a picture of a Bored Ape from, their father without even knowing about it. I don't know. Bottom line is, just because somebody owns an expensive NFT doesn't mean that you should be listening to that person, doesn't mean you should be investing in that person. You need to really look behind that. But the ape opens doors. It's kind of like a resume to some extent where, it'll get you the interview. It'll get you the conversation with somebody. It'll pique somebody's attention to say, maybe I'm willing to talk to this person. And then at that point, if that opens doors and opens opportunities for you based on who you are and the value you can actually bring, then that's something that you can compound and really leverage.
Awesome. Yeah, yeah, that's a great point to always do your own research and watch out for who you're listening to. I think we can kind of pivot over. I'd like to talk about kind of play to earn games and how NFTs are going to be utilized in video games in the future, because I think that it's a very common narrative for us in the NFT space that this is going to transform video games like World of Warcraft, Call of Duty, etc. But
Mm-hmm.
seems like everyone in kind of the web 2 traditional video games hate NFTs and do not want there to be play to earn games or for game makers to change to this. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, I mean that's a heavy topic, but let's dive in. I think the resistancy, the hesitancy, the hatred, going as far as from a traditional gaming community about NFTs is just because of a misinformed narrative. The large majority of people that aren't into NFTs think that it's just this like Ponzi scheme scam where people are right clicking images and selling them for huge amounts of money speculatively. And they don't understand that NFTs can simply represent proof of ownership of a digital asset and give you a lot more control into the environments that you decide to spend your time and participate in. And people don't realize, when you're playing World of Warcraft, and you work for hours, days, months to acquire, this sword or this piece of armor, and that's, something that you now uniquely own in the context of the game, that can be represented in games moving forward as an NFT. But that means that then that sword or that piece of armor isn't confined to the four walls of Blizzard's game, that you can then take it and maybe have utility of that in some other game or some other environment. And then you can take it and have full control over the asset in terms of the way that you sell it or the way that you allow other people to gain access to it. It takes the centralized control away to some extent from the game makers like Blizzard or whoever it may be in that example, and it puts it in control of the player communities, and it allows you to feel like you have real legitimate ownership in the things that you are earning inside of the context of those games and environments. And it's really hard for me to understand why somebody wouldn't want that if they start to really understand what the implications of it are. And so let me give you an example. There's a platform called NFT Worlds, and it is a platform that for a variety of reasons I'm extremely bullish on, and I think has a very, very good chance of being the technology foundation of a major metaverse. And the reason is that there are going to be thousands of developers that are able to build really immersive experiences that sit on top of these worlds that are all interconnected. And so you can go from, slaying a dragon and protecting a princess in a castle and, earning something here, to walking through a portal and playing a round of golf, to walking through a portal and having a business meeting, to walking through a portal and, walking into a home that you own with a piece of land that, is represented by an NFT. And then you're, putting your trophies on a shelf and inviting people over for a game of poker. There's going to be this immersive interactive world that exists where there's connectivity between these different experiences and there's an economy that sits underneath them. But imagine in that world if you're able to earn things in one place and then leverage them inside of somewhere else. And so whether that be the game token, what's called world token in the context of NFT worlds, that, maybe you earned world token for slaying that dragon, but then you used it to pay the greens fee to play that round of golf. And then you earned more world token because you got a hole in one on hole 17. And then you brought that into the area where you own your home and you walked up to the interactive DMV and used it to customize a license plate for your interactive vehicle that you pull into the garage of your home. This is what's going to create an immersive, interactive, connected, open world. And when you have that kind of connectivity that's represented by NFT ownership, which means that when you earn something in one place, you're earning the items or the tokens in your wallet, and you're able to then move them from experience to experience, place to place, in an interconnected way where you have thousands of developers all building these things on the same technology platform. That to me is what gets me out of bed in the morning. That's what's so freaking exciting. People just don't appreciate yet what's coming. They're too used to the idea of a game developer building one boxed in thing and then interacting within the context of that environment. And we're going to have to evolve. Game developers are going to have to evolve because the expectations are going to change from that community. And it's going to take time because it takes a lot of time to educate players on what this is, especially with so much noise in the market about what NFTs are that just really isn't true. Or if it is true, it represents a small portion of the people that are trying to create NFTs for no other reason than to, make speculative money, not what they represent in terms of their technology potential.
Yeah. I mean, I completely agree. I think maybe also another reason why gamers are kind of put off by NFTs is they're already so upset by kind of the money squeeze that these game developers are doing through microtransactions. But I think NFTs will only help them even if microtransactions continue to exist. For example, like if you're playing Fortnite and you buy a skin for $20 of V-Bucks, then you don't really have ownership of that skin. You can't then sell it
Right.
later when you're done playing Fortnite. But if you bought that as an NFT, maybe using V-Bucks as a cryptocurrency or whatever, then let's say you've matured, you don't want to play Fortnite anymore, you've moved on to a new game, then you can now sell that skin. I mean, I used to play like kind of the first season of Fortnite ever, and I have a skin early on. That's probably would be a very rare skin now if I were able to trade it. But and then it also like seems like it'll also help the game developer because they could also maybe put a 5% royalty on all of those sales. So not only will I be benefiting it, then other people will be benefiting by buying my rare skin, and then the game developer would make extra royalties. Like I think it's a win-win. There's like no lose in that situation. I think.
Well, I would take what you said actually a step further that I think is even more exciting than the example you gave, which, by the way, is completely correct. I'm 100% on board with you. But what if you could take that skin that you got in Fortnite, maybe you earned it through some achievement, and then, yeah, you decide you don't want to play Fortnite anymore. Well, what if you could use that skin in the new game that you go and decide to play? And so you own that skin, but it's not locked in Fortnite where if you don't want to play that game anymore, it just dies. You could now take that and use it somewhere else. And then somebody's like, wow, what's that rare thing you're watching? You're looking, oh, I earned that 3 years ago in Fortnite all the way over here. And now all of these experiences are interconnected in a way that really becomes the metaverse. When you ask somebody what is a metaverse, people don't have a good explanation for that yet. You'll get 100 different answers from 100 different people because it just simply doesn't exist yet in the way that we're imagining it. We haven't reached the Ready Player One Oasis, kind of world where you're just porting from place to place and taking your inventory with you and treating it as ownership. But NFTs represent the foundational building blocks that are going to allow that to happen. The blockchain represents what's going to allow that to happen. And that to me is really freaking exciting because when you earn something in a game or anywhere or buy it or, whatever it may be, you want to feel like it's yours, not that it's locked in the four walls of some centralized developer that created an experience in one place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Adam, Jacob, we are almost out of time together, but I want to. I hope we can end our conversation by talking about Adam's two specific NFT pursuits here. So, Adam, you're the co-founder of Hungry Wolves and Whitesands, which is a metaverse NFT project. Let's start with Whitesands, which you were just talking about. There's 100 different tight answers to the question, what is a metaverse? Let's not ask that question right now. Let's just ask, what is Whitesands? And then right after that, I hope you can talk about Hungry Wolves.
Yeah, so extremely excited about Whitesands. And so Whitesands, as audacious as it sounds, is a metaverse. And so we are building an interactive virtual world where you are going to be able to own land. You're going to be able to build your own content, whatever your imagination can come up with. You're going to be able to purchase master plan community luxury homes and customize them by putting NFTs up on the wall or furniture or pets. You're going to have vehicles. We're going to be creating experiences like hot air balloon rides and golf courses and battles. And this is really going to be an immersive, interactive world that is sitting on top of the Ethereum blockchain. We are leveraging the NFT world's ecosystem, as I mentioned earlier, which is going to enable us to connect Whitesands to hundreds, thousands of other immersive experiences that other developers are already creating. It means that the things that you earn and own inside of those other experiences, in many cases, will be able to be utilized and leveraged in Whitesands and vice versa. There's a standardized economy based on World Token that actually transcends all of these different experiences. We are building this at a ludicrous level of quality. And so if you go and look at some of these master plan homes that we've already developed, they are at a level of quality that transcends anything else that has been shown as far as a metaverse goes from any platform. And I feel very comfortable and confident saying that. We've invested a huge amount of time, money, resources into creating something very unique and special. We just opened the Discord for this project about 8 days ago. It already has 20,000 people that are enthusiastic about the project. They are, figuratively offering their right arm, their soul, their firstborn child for whitelist spots to be some of the Genesis landholders in this metaverse, which will be minting in a couple of weeks. And so I would encourage anybody to check it out on Twitter at Whitesands Game. You can go read our white paper, a lot of detail around what it is that we've built, what we're committing to, how to get involved, jump into the Discord. You can talk to people about it. But this really is going to be a metaverse that, by the way, is not just conceptual. We are going to launch the metaverse in April. That's a few weeks away. And so you're going to be able to go on your Xbox, your PlayStation, your Nintendo Switch, your Oculus headset, your computer, and you're going to be able to engage with this world, build and create in this world, interact with people in this world, and be some of the founding members of what we think is going to be the nucleus of a metaverse built on these NFT worlds connected to these thousands of other experiences.
Yep, pretty exciting, pretty exciting. But that's just one of two things that occupies your day, yeah. So talk to us about Hungry Wolves is this whole other thing, and then
It is this whole other thing, and I spend an equal amount of my time and energy on that. And Hungry Wolves was my first NFT collection that I personally launched. It's very, very important to me. I'm extremely proud of what it is that we've put out with that. It is a gamified 3D generative NFT collection. And so there are 6,000 Hungry Wolves. Each one of them is unique based on millions of combinations of traits. And so they have different fur colors, different facial expressions, backgrounds, items that they're holding, shirts that they're wearing, et cetera, et cetera. Some are more rare than others. Each Hungry Wolf that you own represents your game piece into a ecosystem where you can join wolf packs alongside other wolves and then communicate with them like a guild or a clan in a traditional MMO. You can receive airdrops of Scrumptious Sheep and Little Lamb NFTs every single month, which are presented to you as you're going out and hunting virtually every full moon. You then can eat those NFTs and earn what's called dominance in the context of the game, which you can then use to challenge other players in a PFP-like mechanic where you can actually steal their metadata trait of alpha or beta. You can use it to upgrade the visual traits of your wolf by exchanging dominance. We've created a brand new collection that sits under Hungry Wolves called Runts, which are baby 3D wolves that you can mint completely free. And we're very proud of that collection because it's an on-ramp for anybody that wants to get into NFTs that hasn't taken that step or that jump yet. You can go to the Runts website. You can mint an NFT completely free. You just pay the Ethereum gas fees to do it. And then you get a 3D modeled generative NFT inside of your wallet that out of the gate has game mechanics built into it. You can join a wolf pack. You can jump into our community of enthusiastic holders that answer questions for you, not just about the project, but about blockchain or what other projects you might want to take a look at. And we're really excited about the idea of creating this kind of perpetual free onboarding layer into our game system for Hungry Wolves. And so it's very different than Whitesands. Whitesands is a metaverse. We're building a virtual world where people are going to be able to go in and innovate and interact. Hungry Wolves is a much more traditional generative collection, more akin to Bored Ape Yacht Club, where by owning the NFT, it represents your membership and your ability to collaborate, communicate, compete against the other members of the game. And by the way, there will be crossovers between the two. And so I've already talked to both the Whitesands developers and my partner, Brandon over there, about building some unique facets of the Whitesands ecosystem for the Hungry Wolves holders. And then the Hungry Wolves holders, for example, were all offered whitelist opportunity for Whitesands and didn't have to work nearly as hard as some of the other folks that maybe wanted to get into the project because they made a commitment to me and the things that I'm working on at a very early stage.
Yeah, right on, right on. So as a guy who's been paying attention to the NFT space for years before it became as cool as it did in the past year, what lessons have you learned from earlier projects that you're able to put into place for your own work, whether it's Hungry Wolves or whether it's Whitesands?
That's a really, really great question. Thank you for asking it. So first and foremost, I'd say my number one lesson over time is that community really is the most important aspect of at least a generative project, but probably any project. And evaluating the quality of the community, the vibe of the community, the enthusiasm And whether or not, is this a community of people that are genuinely excited about the project and the roadmap and the founders and the utility? Or is it a community that is genuinely excited because of the speculative opportunity to buy something and then maybe flip it the next day for more money? And when you have the first, it creates this organic feeling, great foundation for a project that gives it the opportunity to grow and thrive. And when you have the latter, then it creates a foundation that is much more temporary and much more bound to the floor price and can have big swings in one direction or another because nobody feels like they actually have any real affinity for the thing that they're investing in. I would tell you that I am very much a proponent of doxed founders in projects. I am a
Hmm.
doxed founder. People know who I am. They know my professional background. They know that when I make a commitment that I can stand behind it and that they can hold me accountable to it. That to me is extremely important, especially in a world of ever-growing scams and rugs and people that don't really feel like they are responsible to follow through on their commitments to a project when they raise, in some cases, millions of dollars of investment. And I'm not saying that just because a project doesn't have docs founders that it's not a great project. There are plenty of really, really awesome NFT projects that I invest in that don't have docs founders. But it means that you have to do more due diligence. It means you have to dig in more into the community and the project and the history or
Hmm.
otherwise. And I think that really is the biggest thing more than all is that you have to do your own research. And you can't just buy into something because it seems to have a lot of hype around it. You need to make sure that you're really evaluating this as an investment and candidly as a gamble. Every dollar that you invest, every ETH that you invest into an NFT is gambling. Let's all just be honest with each other. I believe in NFTs and I believe in where this market is going. And for all the reasons that I've shared on this interview today, I'm very bullish. But this could all go to zero tomorrow. I could be completely wrong. And you shouldn't invest money into NFTs just like you shouldn't go into a casino and put money on the table that you're not fully prepared to lose, and it wouldn't negatively impact your life in a meaningful way if that were to happen. I invest in things all the time and I make lots of money. I invest in projects and I'm wrong, and sometimes I lose lots of money. And I do that because I'm in a fortunate position where I can. But everybody needs to take seriously that NFTs are about as dangerous, speculative of an investment that you could possibly make in this world. And there's a lot of reward because you're also taking on a tremendous amount of risk at the same time. And just because I say it's a good idea, back to what I was saying earlier, doesn't necessarily mean that it's a good idea. But I believe in it for all the reasons that I've gone into.
Right.
I'm investing huge
It's worked
amounts of
out
money
well
and
for you, Adam.
opportunity. I can't complain. I've made a lot of money on the NFTs that I've bought personally. It's made amazing connections for me and built foundation for me that are allowing me to build projects that I'm really passionate about and I'm having so much fun doing. I'm in a very fortunate position in my life. Not to brag, but I don't have to work anymore. And so if I don't want to work anymore, I don't have to. I could sit on a beach for the rest of my life and I would be just fine. But I work 18 hours a day, 7 days a week because I love what I'm doing. And the projects that I'm running don't feel like work. When I get to wake up every day and build an interactive, connected metaverse, that to me, it's a dream come true. I can't imagine wanting to spend my time short of, doing stuff with my kids in any other way. And the same thing goes with my Hungry Wolves project. I get to build a community that is just as passionate and just as excited about the future of NFTs as I am. And I can jump into the Discord and have conversations with these people that are all really jazzed about the game mechanics that I'm working on with developers that sit underneath the project. And it enables me to create things like runts, where now we have an on ramp for brand new people to get them into NFTs for the first time. And just yesterday I saw somebody post a message saying, just minted my first NFT with a picture of a runt. And like, that's heartwarming for me at this point to know
Uh-huh.
that I'm helping onboard people into this ecosystem with something that we innovated on and built for that purpose.
Right on, right on. Well, let's wrap it there. Thank you, Adam, very much for sharing your time, wisdom, and experience with us. Very edifying to listen and learn from you. And Jacob, as always, thanks for the questions. If you like this podcast, if you like this kind of content, and you've watched this far, you might as well subscribe to this channel. Go ahead and click that subscribe button. Give this video a thumbs up. We also are going out in audio format, so find this audio podcast and listen as you're driving or shopping or whatever. So from Dylan and Jacob, thanks to Adam for joining us, and we'll see you in the next episode.